How's everybody doing today? It is July 21st, Sunday, 2024. It is 4:39 p.m. Okay, so what I've got for you for this video is what we did at church today. I'm gonna give you my notes from Bible study and church service. Okay, so Dave Hetty talked about the Zayin sword. It's the sword of the Spirit, and Zayin is the 7th letter of the alphabet. And then there's the letter Z. Let's see. And then I drew what looks like a plowshare weapon. It says plowshare weapon cut off law. So I have no idea if you can see that or not, but that right there, that's what that looks like. And it says, what does a plow do? Like, I was taking notes from the stuff that he had wrote down on his pieces of paper, or printed out on his pieces of paper. Okay. Breaks up the hardened spirit in humans. Like their hardened hearts and their hardened spirits. The Zayin sword, I have no idea if I'm saying that right. I hope I am. Or the Zayin sword. I forgot how you say it already. If somebody has like a hardened heart or a hardened spirit, or it'll break up their hardened heart and hardened spirit, and it'll soften it to be more receptive to God's Spirit and the Holy Spirit, to receive all the goodness that God has for them. Okay, and then Genesis chapter 3, verses 17 through 19. Let's see if I have a Bible readily available. Yes, I do. Right here. I've got like a bazillion of them around here. There's like every nook and cranny you look, there's a Bible. Okay. Let's see. Genesis. We're going to just look this up while I'm at it. Genesis 3. (17) through 19. Okay, and this is what version is this? New King James Version. 17. Okay. Then to Adam he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake, in toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat it. Eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Okay. Yeah, he was talking about Adam and Eve, and how Adam and Eve were in the garden. And then, I did not know this, but I think I wrote it down. Yes, I did. Okay. That's later on. Okay, so he's talking about Adam and Eve. And then he talks about, then after that they were, cast out of the garden. And then he says the word fight is fight, and then is 107. And 107, the number 107 is cry out to God in distress. Okay, and then he has Adam cried, or I wrote Adam cried, and I think that he said Adam cried bitterly. And Eve didn't, and then Adam and Eve didn't age. So whenever they aged, that's why he was crying, because he hadn't seen his body like that before. And he didn't know how to deal with it, I guess. And so he was very sad, and he was crying because his body was aging. They had stayed the same age for years and years and years until Eve ate the fruit that the serpent told her to eat. And then, so evidently whenever they were cast out, they went to a cave of treasures. And that's all I wrote. There's more to it than that. But I was like, what? The cave of treasures. So I wrote that down, because I had that dream with the cave, and that's whenever, we went through the cave. And then after we got out of the cave, Steve wasn't there anymore. And then I have no idea where he went, but he just like disappeared or whatever. But Steve and I went through the cave together, and then he wasn't there anymore. And then I walked a little bit in the field, and that's whenever I saw the angel and the vanity table and the book that was open, and such a good dream. Oh my goodness, I had this back in 2010, 2011, something like that. And this was after, I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but I have to tell this dream because it was just so wonderful, 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 so wonderful. I turned around, and there was a book, and it was open, and it was on vanity table, and all the grass that I had seen, it was like out in this big open field, and all you could see was grass, and there wasn't a whole lot of other stuff there than grass. And this grass was just so green. It was just green, the greenest green I'd ever seen in my entire life. And it was beautiful. And I just remember seeing grass, and then I saw a light flash in the vanity table. It was a glass vanity table, which is really odd because I had a glass vanity table whenever I was a little kid. And I want to say that this thing looked like that, and except it didn't have the mirror on it. I don't think it had the mirror. I forgot. I forgot. But anyway, and whenever I saw the flash, I knew. It was like somehow, how you just know that you know that you know that you know, and there isn't any explaining as to how you know. You just know. And I think that's why I turned around really slowly, because I didn't want to, I guess, make any sudden movements or anything. I'm not really sure what I was doing. And I know that I was just, in awe, and, it was just going to be so wonderful, and it was. And I turned around really, really slowly, and there was an angel standing in front of me, and I just knew that he was an angel. I just knew. And he wasn't too much taller than I was. He was a little taller than I was, but he wasn't real tall. And because you know how you hear of all these people saying, oh, the angels are really, really tall, and they're really, really tall, and da-da-da-da-da. And, well, this angel wasn't that tall. He was just, a little taller than me, maybe 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", something like that. And he had short black hair. And he uh, he reached out and he took a crown off of my head. Evidently, I was wearing a crown. He took a crown off of my head and gave it to the little girl that was sitting on the ground. I have no idea who she is. I'm assuming that she was me whenever I was younger or something like that. Like, I have no idea how, how dreams, like, anything can happen in a dream sometimes. So, he took the crown off of me and he put it on her. And then he said, "Here, I have something better for you." And he gave me a crown that was like, you know how you see like a king's crown? It's like all round. It wasn't like a tiara. It was like a crown. It was all round, and it had like a bazillion diamonds in it. It was so beautiful, and he put it on me, and I think if I remember right, he just smiled after that. And I just remember the feeling. I still remember it to this day whenever I talk about it. That it was just, you cannot explain the feeling that I felt. Like, it was such a good feeling. It was like there was no sadness, there was no worry, there was no anxiety, there was none of that negative stuff. There was no negative stuff whatsoever. Everything was just good. It was good. Everything felt so good and felt so wonderful. And it was like something like I had never felt in my entire life. Like, I know for a fact that I hadn't felt anything like that in my entire life. And just thinking about it makes me emotional. And sometimes when I think about it, I think about it a lot. And just thinking about it sometimes just makes me want to cry, because it's just like, but not in a bad way, like in a good way, because that's whenever I had that dream, like right after I gave up on God. I literally sat there at the desk and said, "I give up." And I was like, I don't believe in you anymore, and da 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 da, and all this stuff. And I wanted to move out of this apartment so bad. And well, here I am. I'm still here 15 years later. Um and I moved out for a little while, but I'm back here again. And yeah, and it's so much worse than it was before. But anyway, and so, I was just like, and then I had that dream, and I was like, so to me, that was saying, God didn't give up on me. Whenever I gave up on him, he didn't give up on me. I felt like he gave me that dream to let me know that. And then I found like verses in the Bible, and it says, he'll give you somebody that will stick closer to you than a brother. And I still haven't found that person yet, besides Jeremy. But I don't think I'm supposed to be around Jeremy that much anymore. So yeah, I'm just like wondering, like, you know. But anyway, okay, so I'm getting off subject. Anyway, so okay, Cave of Treasures. All right, back to the notes. Okay, and then Exodus chapter 13, verse 18. Okay, so I'll read that. Exodus. Exodus 13:18. Okay, so in the New King James Version, it says, "So God led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt." And I forgot what we were talking about that for. I think we're talking about how people in Egypt were slaves and then they weren't slaves anymore because Pharaoh eventually let them go and they weren't slaves anymore. And then he says that the Greek word hamush means armed men. I think he's talking about, I think there he was talking about the armor of God. And he was saying how the armor isn't like literal armor, like a warrior back in the old day, like the knights, like, you know, would put on armor. We're not like literally putting on armor. We're putting on God, and we're, you know, sort of, I think the word is metaphorically putting on the armor. We're putting on the shoes, the breastplate, the helmet, the sword of the spirit, you know, and all that good stuff. So like this, you can literally, you know, hold, but like we have to like literally, well, not literally, but metaphorically and like mentally put that armor on. Okay, and that's what you're saying, armed men, hamush. Okay, and then 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 7. 2 Corinthians 6, 7. By the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. Okay, so the word of truth, it's the word of truth, the power of God, and the armor of righteousness. So that's Ephesians 6. In Ephesians 6, 17. Ephesians. Ephesians 6:17. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Okay, and there's defensive and there's offensive armor. I did not know this. This is the first time I'm learning this. And the offensive is the sword. The sword is the only one that's offensive, and the rest of the armor is defensive. Okay. And oh yeah, and then I wrote a note to myself to say to look up Ephesians 6, the spiritual armor, to delve deeper into it, to find out about the spiritual armor. And then receive seed, and our hearts will close up if we don't receive the furrow. I did not know that. He was talking about how, like, not our hearts won't literally, like, open up, but, like, our spiritual heart will open up if we receive the seed, but if we don't, then it will close up. Our spiritual heart will close up. And I think that's That could be like what it's talking about with the hardening of the heart, is that our spiritual heart will close up and we won't be softened to people anymore, and you know what's going on in the world, what's going on with people, and it won't affect us as much anymore because our hearts will be hardened and it will close up. That's what he said. Okay, and Micah 4:3. Micah 4:3. Micah. Micah 4:3. He shall judge between many peoples and rebuke strong nations afar off. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Okay, and then I wrote the Hebrew, or I tried to anyway, write the Hebrew words, the Hebrew letters for Zayn. And it's Zayn, Yod, Nun. And then number 7 is Shebat or Shabbat. I think it's Shabbat. And then, let's see, and then we have Exodus 17:12. Okay, going back to Exodus 17:12. And that's the last verse. But Moses' hands became heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. There's another, 13 has the word sword in it. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Since we're talking about swords, that's not it. It might be in 13 too. I could be wrong, but okay. So that is all for that. And then I also have one last thing is I also have, if you write the letters up and down, Dave said that it looks like a fish hook or like a fishing rod, I think he said. Okay, so that's all for a Bible study. For Sunday service, there was Luke 18, verse 35. And then I wrote down Nicholas Carpacinus. That was for me. Because I saw the word Nicholas. And D.L. Moody. That was for me as well. Look up D.L. Moody. there was something he had said that D.L. Moody had said, or something to that effect. So I decided to research D.L. Moody. And then Romans chapter 7, verses 17, 18, 19, and 20. Then 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 31 through 34. And then I wrote down that for me, because this is for me, because I am trying to do it by myself, not asking God for help. And Joshua 24, 15 through 18. And it was, that has to do with Joshua 24, 15 through 18. And there's also another verse. But I always remembered that Paul was the one that said it. Paul was always saying that this is just so me. Okay, so I'm gonna look this up, and I'm gonna look up Joshua. So, because I know that this might help somebody else as well. If you feel this way too, I feel this way all the time. And that was one of the reasons why I said that I was appalled, because I felt like I always did the things that I didn't want to do. That was pretty much what it was. Trying to find Joshua. Okay. 259. 259. Okay, Joshua. Okay, 24, 15 through 18. I read it from a different verse, I think. I mean, it's also somewhere else. I just forgot where it was. Okay. And coincidentally, it's under the covenant of Shechem. Remember, I had that dream about Jensen and Jared was standing there, and he had the Bulls uniform on with the number 32, and 32 means covenant. So I still have yet to look up all the covenants in the Bible and everything that has the word covenant in it. I still have yet to do that. I started to, and then I didn't do it. Okay. 24, 15 through 18. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So the people answered and said, Far be it from us that we should forsake the Lord to serve other gods. For the Lord our God is he who brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage, who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way that we went, and among all the people through whom we passed. And the Lord drove out from before us all the people, including the Amorites who dwelt in the land. We also will serve the Lord, for he is our God. Okay. That doesn't say what I thought it did. Because he talked about Paul saying, I thought that had to do with Paul saying, I just saw something. I'm sorry, I got distracted. The word that I audibly heard in my ear one day. I just saw it right here in the Bible. Okay, okay, so, yeah, it says, it's 1925. But I forgot what book and what chapter. I forgot. Here, let's look it up. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Because I feel like that all the time. It says it says something about he does the things that he doesn't want to do. And I do that. I think it's 1925. Well, I can't find it right now. Oh, wait, there it is. Romans. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who did it, but it is sin living in me that does it. Okay. So that's why we keep doing it. I evidently needed to be reminded of that. So I find. Hold on, I just got a thingamajig. I know, spiritual warfare. A thing for spiritual warfare just came up. I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, spiritual warfare. Okay. So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being I delight in God's law, but I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. Okay, that is verse 23. Okay. What a wretched man I am. Who will rescue me from this body that is subject to death? Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, I myself in my mind am a slave to God's law, but in my sinful nature a slave to the law of sin. So that's me. Okay, so what this is saying is we do the things that we don't want to do if we're struggling to do the things that we want to do, because I've been doing it forever. Everybody who ever watches any of my videos or knows me in person or anything like that knows that I struggle with sin. I struggle with sinning. I want to do good. I do. I want to do good, and I tell God that all the time. I'm like, God, I can't do this. I'm like, why am I losing this battle? And I'm constantly, whenever I get mad at